Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. The headlines. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, calls for increasing trade and economic cooperation at the virtual summit with his Luxembourg counterpart. India slams Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. Pacific island nation Samoa announces its first case of COVID-19. Iraq and Saudi Arabia reopen a Rar border crossing after 30 years. And in tennis, Medvedev stuns Djokovic to reach the ATP final semis. Prime Ministers of India and Luxembourg held a bilateral summit in virtual format today. The two Prime Ministers agreed to strengthen cooperation on realizing effective multilateralism and combating global challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, terrorism and climate change. Addressing the virtual summit, Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, said there is a lot of potential of increasing economical exchanges between India and Luxembourg. Mr. Modi congratulated his Luxembourg counterpart, Xavier Bettel's skillful leadership in this difficult time of the COVID pandemic. He expressed condolences on behalf of all Indians for the loss of lives in COVID in Luxembourg.
भारत लग्जमबर्ग पार्टनरशिप दोनों देशों के साथ साथ दोनों क्षेत्रों की रिकवरी के लिए उपयोगी हो सकती है। डेमोक्रेसी, रूल ऑफ लॉ और फ्रीडम जैसे साझा आदर्श हमारे संबंधों और आपसी सहयोग को मजबूती देते हैं। भारत और लग्जमबर्ग के बीच आर्थिक आदान प्रदान बढ़ाने का बहुत पोटेंशियल है। स्टील, फाइनेंशियल टेक्नोलॉजी, डिजिटल डोमेन जैसे क्षेत्रों में हमारे बीच अभी भी अच्छा सहयोग है, किंतु इसे और आगे ले जाने की अपार संभावना है।
Speaking on the occasion, the Luxembourg Prime Minister welcomed the agreements in the area of space and finance. He said his country supported and welcomed India's election to UNSC for the term 2021-22.
We have good cooperation on bilateral level, but also on multilateral level. We are stronger when we work together. And so you can count on us, and we supported and welcomed India elections to the UN Security Council for the term 21-22, which is also, I think, a very important success.
India today slammed Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. It said Pakistani forces continue to engage in providing supporting cover fire to infiltrators despite repeated calls for restraint and adherence to the ceasefire understanding of 2003 for maintaining peace and tranquility. Replying to a media query, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Shrivastava said the incessant infiltration of terrorists and induction of weapons to fuel terror activities continues unabated. He pointed out that such activities are not possible without the support of Pakistani forces deployed along the LOC.
Despite repeated calls for restraint and adherence to the ceasefire understanding of 2003 for maintaining peace and tranquility, Pakistani forces continue to engage in providing supporting cover fire to infiltrators. The incessant infiltration of terrorists and induction of weapons to fuel terror activities continues unabated.
The Mumbai terror attack mastermind and Jamaat-ud-Dawa head Hafiz Saeed has been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in an illegal funding case. According to reports, an anti-terrorism court in Pakistan announced him guilty on 2 terror charges and also ordered for seizure of his properties. Saeed was arrested on July 17th last year on charges of terror financing. He was sentenced to 11 years in jail in February this year. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi has said that India is uniquely positioned to leap ahead the world in the information era. Inaugurating the Bengaluru Tech Summit virtually today, he emphasized that it is time for the tech solutions designed in India to be deployed for the world.
Achievements of the industrial era are in the rear view mirror, and now we are in the middle of information era. India as a country is uniquely positioned to leap ahead in the information era. We have the best minds as well as the biggest market. Our local tech solutions have the potential to go global. India is at a sweet spot. It is time for tech solutions that are designed in India but deployed for the world.
Saying that India has the best minds and the biggest market, Mr. Modi said Indian tech has the potential to go global. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Swiss Confederation Vice President Guy Parmelin attended the inaugural event virtually. Speaking at the event, Australian Prime Minister said his country plans to take bilateral relationship with India to new heights by working together in frontier technologies. He added that Australia and India are working together for an open, free, safe and secure internet. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. Iraq and Saudi Arabia have opened the Arar border crossing for trade for the first time in 3 decades. Arar has been closed since 1990 after the two countries cut ties following the 1990 Gulf War. Rapprochement began in 2015 when Saudi Arabia reopened its embassy in Baghdad. In July, both the countries signed investment agreements on energy and sports. Foreign ministers from the United States, Australia, Britain, Canada and New Zealand have urged China to reconsider its actions against Hong Kong's elected legislature and immediately reinstate the Legislative Council members. In a statement, the group of 5 countries, also known as Five Eyes Alliance, said that China's imposition of new rules to disqualify elected legislators in Hong Kong appeared to be a part of a campaign to silence critics. They have called on Beijing to reverse its decision. Hong Kong expelled 4 opposition members from its legislature last week after Beijing gave city authorities new powers to curb dissent. The move triggered mass resignations by the remaining 15 pro-democracy opposition lawmakers. Canada's opposition on Wednesday called on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government to get tougher on China. Opposition parties passing a non-binding motion calling China a threat to Canadian interests and values. The opposition motion, which passed 179 to 146, called on the government to ban Huawei 5G within 30 days. They urged the government to draft a plan to combat China's growing foreign operations in Canada. The European Union's Trade Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis said on Wednesday that Britain and the EU are in the last moments to reach a trade deal. The deal would regulate the relationship after Britain's transition period ends on January 1st, 2021. Japanese lawmakers on Thursday declared a climate emergency in a symbolic vote aimed at increasing pressure for action to combat global warming. The move comes after Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga last month announced Japan would aim to cut greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. Ruling Liberal Democratic Party lawmaker Yoshihisa Furukawa said the resolution was vital to show the world that Japan was not lagging in the fight against global warming. And now the coronavirus updates from around the world. According to WHO data, global coronavirus infections crossed 55.65 million. The US states and cities are imposing a series of new restrictions, including home confinement, the closure of indoor dining, and a limit on gatherings as cases soar across the country. Europe remains the hardest hit region, accounting for 46% of new global cases. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga on Thursday urged the citizens to practice what it termed as quiet dining in a bid to curb the surging COVID-19 cases in the country. Pacific Island nation Samoa announced its first case of COVID-19 on Thursday. In India, the COVID-19 recovery rate has further improved to 93.58% and the active caseload has fallen below 5% of the total cases. And now moving on to sports. In tennis, Russia's Daniil Medvedev defeated world number 1 Novak Djokovic in straight sets to qualify for the ATP final semi-final at O2 Arena in London. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnava Jan by artists from Bolivia. And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.